anticipation is over. We just had the draw for the next World Cup. Now we know who's going to play who in the group stage. There are some groups that are stronger than others. There are two groups at this World Cup that are stronger than all the rest. They could be considered the groups of death. Let's start off by looking at the strongest one out of them all. It's Group F, which has Netherlands, Japan, Tunisia, as well as we don't know who the fourth team is going to be, but it's going to be one of the teams from the UEFA PAF B playoffs, which has Poland, Ukraine, Albania, and Sweden. This is the most stacked UEFA playoff. And if it ends up being Poland from the UEFA playoffs, they also play Netherlands in the qualifying round. So it'll be a repeat of that. And there was some really close games between the two of them, as well as Japan and Tunisia being two really strong teams outside of Europe and South America. The other group that I think is extremely strong as well is England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. England has a very strong squad. Even if they don't win the World Cup, they always make it to the knockout stage. Croatia has been making the semifinals and the finals the last few World Cups, with their core getting older but still being there, such as Modric. Then you have Ghana returning to the World Cup, a really powerful African country, and Panama might be from North America, but they're a pretty solid team. They're weaker than the other three, but they can hold their own as well. Below these teams, there's a tier 2. Group I, Group C, and Group E. In Group I, you have France, Senegal, Norway. 3 very tough squads. They're gonna go at it with each other. However, they also have the winner of the Intercontinental Playoff, which is between Bolivia, Suriname, and Iraq. That team, I feel like, is going to dilute a little bit the quality of that group, but the top 3 are extremely strong. Then in Group C, you have Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. Kind of similar to Group I, where there's 3 really strong teams, especially the top 2. Brazil and Morocco, I think, is going to be the most exciting game of the group round, especially because they're 2 really exciting teams to watch, and they're both very good. Scotland might surprise some people. Group E, you have Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, and Curacao. Same thing. This is a recurring theme with these tier 2 groups, as I mentioned, where there's one team that is weaker than all the other ones, but the top 3 are very powerful. Curacao is making their debut. They did impressive in qualifying, but I don't think they're that strong of a team. But then you have Germany, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. 3 extremely good football squads that are going to go at it with each other. And then you could also add another group to tier 2. They're a little bit different than these other ones. It's Group A. Now Group A has Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and the winner of the UEFA Playoff D. This group is different than other ones because this group, it doesn't have a team that is extremely good, but all 4 of these teams are probably going to be very even matched. They're all really good teams. None of them is that world class that can beat anybody team. But at the same time, they're all pretty much at each other's level. They're pretty solid teams. Mexico has been worse lately, but they're playing at home. They've historically been a good squad. South Korea has been improving a lot. And then South Africa making the World Cup from Africa for a while. But they do have a pretty solid team, and whoever makes it out of Europe is going to be pretty solid as well. Very evenly matched. Nobody too good, but nobody bad either. Here are the 2 groups that I think are the weakest 2 at this World Cup. Unsurprisingly, they both feature the United States and Canada. I figured before the draw that those 2 groups would most likely be the weakest because the United States and Canada were in the top pot when it came to the draw because they were hosts. But I don't think they're that good, especially because CONCACAF usually has inflated ratings, and they were also intentionally put there as hosts, as all hosts at World Cup are. So let's take a look at that group. Group D has the USA, Paraguay, Australia, and the UEFA playoff winner, which is probably going to be Turkey. Turkey is most likely, if they make it to the World Cup, they're going to be by far the strongest team in that group. That group has some fairly okay teams. Paraguay, they're decent. Australia, they're good for Asia, but they're not that good recently on the world stage. Then you have Group B, Canada, Qatar, Switzerland, and the UEFA playoff winner between Italy, Wales, and Bosnia. This group I think is a little bit stronger, especially because Canada, while they've been historically weak, they have some really good players. Switzerland is a good team from Europe, and then if it's Italy, Wales, and Bosnia, they could be a fairly decent team, but I do think that's a little bit weaker group because those teams even in Europe have not been performing that well. And then there's actually a third one that is slightly better than these two, but also pretty weak, and that is Group G, which has Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. Belgium, outside the host, was the weakest team in pot one, and they got a very easy draw. Egypt could potentially be really good, especially because they have Mohamed Salah, but they're not that deep of a team. And then you also have Iran, good for Asia, but on the world stage, New Zealand made it out of Oceania, pretty weak group. So the draw is done. Maybe we'll have some surprises. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some of these teams that I'm saying are weak, like Haiti, Curacao, will surprise us and they'll come on top in their group. However, we're getting closer and closer to the World Cup and it's getting more and more exciting. Also, outside of ranking these groups, I wanted to take a look at what could have been. This is what I think was the strongest possible group that could have happened but didn't happen. It would have featured Argentina, Morocco, Norway, and one of the UEFA playoff squads. One of the best teams in the UEFA playoff squad. Or a group that had Argentina, Croatia, Norway, or Ghana. And the main reason I chose Argentina from these is because I do think they have one of the top squads, but also they're not in Europe. And you can have a maximum of 2 teams from Europe. So I thought the strongest possible group would be stronger if it had Argentina versus a European country. Thanks for watching my video. If you like football content like this, hit the subscribe button. Also, I made a similar video talking about some teams who made the World Cup for the first time, some teams that were debutants. If you want to watch that video, click here as well. Feel free to leave any comments on your thoughts about who the strongest and weakest groups were. If you disagree with me, feel free to bash me in the comments. Feel free to bash me in the comments if I attacked your country or your team.